Where did you get that?
You can get it at Amazon under in the industrial supply. Pentair Aquatics also carries a 670. 730 will also work well for Erectus. But when I first started out, I had the single holes and they clogged too easily, and so I started drilling more holes in them
Uh huh.
and had much better luck. But anyway, I'm going to put the whole thing together.
Very cool. And then
Okay.
yeah, like sizes for the pipes and things like that would really help me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I've
okay,
got a
guys.
whole.
Hey, let me interrupt real quick to say because we are now live. Happy Wine Wednesday. I keep doing that to them. That we're chatting, and I realize we're so far behind. We've got to start. But and I look. Okay, a couple quick announcements, and I'll tell you what we were chatting about before we started. My light broke, so if you can hardly see me, I'm sorry. In all the shadows, it'll be fixed by next week. Hey, Dylan's Little Hobbies, how are ya? And every time I do start us live, is just to make sure we're not having any technical difficulties, make sure everything's all set up. So if we do have any, of course, let us know. But happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous week. I hope that your seahorses are great, your tanks are fabulous. I had a terrible week myself. For anybody that went to RAP New York and didn't see me, I was not avoiding you. I literally tried to make oysters and scallops and all this seafood for the first time and was sick as a dog the next day. I mean, really, really sick. And it was such a long drive. Anyways, I just didn't make it. So now I'm looking forward to Aquashella and of course Macna. But I really do apologize for not being there. I would have if I could have. I promise. I was depressed all weekend. That's why you guys didn't hear from me because I was like, oh, I'm not at rap. But next year, next time, there's other ones. Anyhow, on to what we were just chatting about before we started. You get a little glimpse into the pre and after parties when I catch them off guard and start live. Last week we were talking, of course, about flow in my tank, and I'll give you guys updates in a minute. But we also keep, Holly asks every time she's trying to set up some fry tubs the way that Dan and Cheryl and Alyssa and all the big wigs do. And so she had the tubs, and she's asked me for weeks to give her the link to the video that Cheryl and I did, and I keep forgetting. So now that link is in the comment section, and I'll make sure that it's in the description too. And I'm going to put it there again just in case it didn't show up the first time. So that is the link to the Cheryl video. And Cheryl, why don't you go ahead and tell us you're going to put together an actual article showing everything too?
Yeah, I'm going to put together an article because I've had several requests from people saying, "Well, how do you build these?"
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with getting a Koi show bowl or comparable bowl, drilling it, putting in a bulkhead, and then doing all the plumbing. And I think it's where a lot of people get confused is with all the plumbing. And I've been doing this. Well, I set up my first bowls in 2011, and each time I break them down, I improve on what I did the last time.
Right. New stuff, absolutely. Well, yeah, I am so looking forward to that article. Make sure we know and we'll share it around everywhere. And on my part, Cheryl actually, when the video that I just put the link in the comments, and I will put it in the description, that's actually the first of like a 5-part series because Cheryl sat down with me and let me ask her every single question about the fry tubs. So I'm gonna go through and try to finish those videos. And then don't forget, if you have a system, like when Holly's building her system, if she has a question, she can literally come in Wine Wednesday, show us and say, okay, so what's this piece, or how do I do this, or whatever. So I'll try to get the videos done, but you can always hop on Wine Wednesday, and she's always here to answer your questions, like after the article comes out if you need more information. So
Well,
go ahead.
the neat thing about them is I'm a small person, and I can literally pick one of these tubs up with one hand and carry them. So cleaning them and taking them outside and scrubbing them is nothing compared to trying to pick up a 29 or 40 gallon or whatever. They're
Right.
just they're so mobile. Can they see the screen shares?
Yeah, if you want to share again, she was showing Holly some things before we started. Cheryl, go ahead and yeah, share. They can see it.
I run two tubs together, which gives me uh, 20, 40, 50, 60, close to 70 gallons in a nursery system. And what they do then is I have the ability to keep live rock on one side if I want to. I can take a bowl down and move them to the other bowl. Or once they get bigger, I can separate them and grade them by size. So one bowl will have the larger, more vigorous growers. The other bowl will have a smaller one. And right now I've got 4 of these set up. And they're on 29-gallon stumps that I built. And I've got 2 more coming in from Pentair Aquatics. I finally found the W-limb bowls, which I love.
Mhm. Yep. And in the video, and actually, come to think of it, I think Dan did a presentation on Wine Wednesday too. So I'll try
He
to find
did.
that also. Yeah,
It-
I'll find that one also. But
Yeah.
but in Cheryl's video, she lets me like ask her, but what is the piece that's on the side? What does that do? What is it called? How do you build the standpipe? She covers all that in the video, and I think Dan did too in a Wine Wednesday. So I'll link those when we're done. But I still think the article will be very valuable because
Well,
sometimes it's hard to find the video. Go ahead, Cheryl.
yeah, this is the one that I sent you very early on
Yep.
when I was, and I've definitely modified it and made a lot of changes over the years.
Mhm.
But it's a whole different world because the fry will orient into the flow and snick food as it goes, baby brine shrimp or copepods, as it passes them, rather than expending energy and having to hunt all over a square or rectangular tank. And I typically expect them within the first 6 to 7 days to more than double in size is what I'm looking for with this. And it works. It
Nice.
really makes the difference.
Yep. I mean, the round tubs do work best. And again, guys, if you're doing something else and it's working for you, you know, keep doing it. But I know Holly wants to expand and do better. What was the other picture you were showing, Cheryl? Weren't you showing like all the fry too?
Hippocampus engines
Look at that.
in one small section of a nursery tub.
How many were in there?
There were well over 1,000.
Mm, mm, mm.
And Dan and I both worked with them, and I got him to about 4 to 5 months, and he got him a little farther than I did. But it's not realistic for somebody that's a hobbyist to try to raise engines. I mean, reed are bad enough, but engines are, they normally, I'm actually a little amazed that you can see them in this picture because they look like an eyelash when they're
Right.
born.
Yeah, they do. They look like little specks, but if you get close
Yeah.
up, and Cheryl, obviously, you know, we're not definitely not promoting somebody trying to raise engines because you're right, they're different, they require more. But for Erectus and Reedi, the same principles, the same tubs, the same setup can still be very effective. I know I used it, and I ran into the exact problem that she was just referring to, where when I was raising fry in little glass tanks or whatever, it would work. I'd get some to live, but then when I started getting people interested in buying them, I was like, well, I want to do this for real. And I set
Yeah.
up the tubs, and all of a sudden, I had hundreds of
Yeah.
adolescent seahorses, and I was like, oh wait, now what? Now what do I do with them? They can't live in the tubs once they're weaned on fry or weaned onto mysis and whatever. And that's why I set up the 90-gallon, and it got really intense really quickly because the tubs really do equal success in my mind.
Well, yeah, it's like when I adopted those fry back toward later in 2018 and then into 2019. I had fry everywhere, and the thing is, what happened is they ended up getting big enough that in each one of these nursery tubs, I was keeping in at least 20 to 30, and they were in the 3-inch range.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It gets crazy, but these are like very, very good nursery tubs. You just, if you before you set them up, be sure you've thought through the rearing tank, what I call it.
Yeah.
The adolescent tank. Make sure you have room for them, or you have people that'll buy them at that young stage. Just which we don't. Most people don't sell them that young. But
Well,
go ahead.
since I'm getting in 2 more tubs whenever they get here, and I'm going to have to be drilling them and doing the bulkheads and everything else. I'm probably going to go ahead and take photos at each step of the way.
Yep. Or hey, Cheryl, just set up your camera and do it on Wine Wednesday. There you go. No,
Yeah, yeah, I
something
could do
like that.
that
Yeah.
because I'm going to have to do pictures from the first drilling into the tub to attaching the bulkhead. I'm very picky anymore about what types of bulkheads I use. I use um, I use the bulkheads that have a female slip on them
Mm,
on the top, and have the male, the threaded version, because it enables me to take everything apart very easily and clean it.
absolutely. And you know, one thing that I did, I'll try to put up a picture of my setup when I had it set up, is I used, I don't advise this because they never last forever, but I used a Rubbermaid tub as a sump, but I used a really sturdy one, you know, like food grade, all that good stuff. And what I did is I had the tub long and wide so that it literally was under the complete tub, so that if I had a mistake on bulkheads or whatever, you know, it would still be a disaster, but I wouldn't technically lose much because if it dripped or anything like that or leaked, it would literally be leaking into the sump. So just a thought. But Cheryl, are your engines or your new yellows and orange beauties, are any of them giving you fry yet, or are you still waiting?
I have three males that are getting big, nice bulbs for pouches,
Hmm.
and I have several females that are very, very interested. Uh, I mean, they're still quite young. They're only oh, probably about 4.5 inches now. But all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, they have taken off.
Nice, nice.
I'm just really very impressed with what they sent me. I guess they're going to be shutting down due to the heat on shipping, and they're going to be taking a break from that.
Hmm.
Um,
But when they get back going, you definitely recommend them for sure. And I love your
uh,
pictures and everything. Go ahead.
well, I've been in constant contact both with Peter and with Carol, and of course, I've known Peter for years.
Hmm.
And he didn't realize I knew Jorge from Draco Marine,
Right.
but he's sending me all kinds of additional articles that have been written, that have been published, about differences in lighting. Like I had one male that lightened up to more of a silver color. All of a sudden, he sent me an article on doing sunbursts in uh, an aquarium, and when you increase the light, they're going to change color. Well, what I've been doing was working in the Seahorse room, and I'd left the ceiling light, which is a very powerful LED light. Well, the male started to change color on me. As soon as I turned off the light, he went back to orange.
Huh. So was the point of the article that more light causes them to change color or less light? Like what was the
Higher light will cause them to change color, and it also has a tendency to make them hide more.
Ah, okay. Well, speaking of which, I have a question for Ray after this, but speaking of which, just an update from last week, guys. All of your recommendations were very helpful. I'm still waiting on the new pump, and I'm still playing with power head options, so I don't have a final result for you yet. But I can tell you this: that I adjusted the lock line the way everyone recommended in the going opposite sides fashion, and all of a sudden the seahorses are out like crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I put up a picture of one of the males like hitched to a snail because he was just out in the open, just hanging. And Holly, I have to say, the poor girl. I think I named her Aphrodite, but the poor darling. She is the only one that still has to hide, but it's no longer from shyness. Like she's out and about quite a bit, but these boys just like whoosh, want her. I mean, I find them looking under rocks and they're no longer looking for food. They're looking for her. They're
Yeah.
hunting her down. but
Yeah.
but she seems more and more interested. So, you know, like the when I feed them, they all eat together and, you know, she'll hitch on them. They'll hit. So things are looking up though, and I just wanted to say I'll post updates once I can actually show what I'm talking about. But everything that you guys have suggested so far has worked. I dimmed the lights a bit.
No treats.
Oh, Ray's got to go. I'll ask him. What'd you say,
What
Ray?
you're describing makes perfect sense to me, because when the males start dancing, they can get very aggressive.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen it more than once with young females that are basically have never reproduced before. They're staying away out of the way of those males.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've got the biggest female right now is now coming out, starting to hook tails with the males and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for a while there, when they first started dancing, she was like, I don't want anything to do with you.
Yep. That's exactly it. Dylan's, I know we got to talk about cyano, but real quick, I know we're jumping around a bit, but Ray, I did want to ask you because jumping back to the fry situation real quick, you never used the tubs, right? And you had a lot of success. So did you just use square tanks? I can't remember.
I started off with the reed eye using 4-liter wide mouth glass jars.
That's right. Okay.
And I progressed to using rectangular tanks, and then after Dan recommended the tubs, I made up a tub setup.
Oh, you did? Okay. For some reason I didn't think you did, but did that seem to work better for you?
No, I actually ended up with about the same percentage of success as I did with the tanks. The reed eye, probably my worst success, and I can't remember now, but that's a lot of years ago. I'm guessing now it wasn't any more than 35 to 45%. I know it was under 50%, but then again, those were the first seahorses I'd ever raised too, and there was a lot of things I've learned since that time when I got on to doing the rectus. By the time of doing the rectus, I knew more about keeping things cleaner. Yeah. And I had better success. But I just have a feeling that I probably would have done better with the erectus anyway, even if I'd done it the same way as the reed eye. Just because reed eye,
they're harder.
They were fussier, a little bit more work. And,
well, they're smaller fry.
Oh yeah.
By far, and they don't hitch. I don't know about the reed eye. I know like my combs typically won't hitch for at least 2, and oftentimes it's not unusual for them not to really hitch until they're 3 weeks old.
I had one batch of reed eye. I swear it was 4 weeks before they were pretty well all doing it. But,
sorry.
On the average, it was probably in that 1 to 2 week range. It's just that one batch, so it really took a long time.
Sure, and I love that you made the point that, like, again, guys, if you're raising fry and it's working for you, don't go out and do all this crazy construction and set something up, because if it's working, it's working. I do think the tubs give a better result, but as Ray's pointing out, there's all these other factors. Like, you could have the tubs, and if you don't clean them right, you're still not going to have good success. If you don't have tough love in the weaning process, you're still. And I actually, to be completely honest, I had a much better success rate with the tubs, but I hated the fact that I couldn't see through the sides. Like, don't hope for great video unless you have a GoPro that you can stick in there, which I did. But, because from the top, I took some really cool pictures, but they're from the top, so I missed being able to see them through the side and see, the detailed interactions. But there's pros
That's solvable,
and cons.
Kelly.
Oh yeah, get clear tubs.
You cut a hole in the side and then silicone some clear plastic for windows.
That's really actually a genius idea. I didn't think of it. And also, as Cheryl shows us the setup, frankly, the reason I probably wouldn't have tried that is because I'm just so bad at cutting holes and all that stuff. So I can't wait to see Cheryl show us how it's done, because I'm more the type that's using scissors and a knife. Just kidding. But,
Well,
you know,
one of the things I learned early on, one of the things I experimented with, I wanted to see if I could get more food into my rectus fry. When
mhm,
I was very early on, so I put a light down in the lower corner, which of course attracted all the baby brine shrimp into one area. Well, what happened next? The seahorses actually formed a feeding ball,
yeah.
and they were able to consume them so fast. They were passing baby brine shrimp, defecating baby brine shrimp that were still moving. And I'm
Yep.
like, that wasn't one of my better ideas.
No, yeah, you don't want them to eat too much too fast because then they're not digesting, as Ray's talked about many times. But for sure, you know, I know that's one of Lucy's tricks with dwarf seahorses. When you know older dwarfs, you're not as worried about the getting the intense feeding into them. I mean, you're still worried, but you get my point. It's like fry, but not exactly. But she uses light as a trick to make sure that they're eating and you know whatever. But if you in the comment section or who watch later, if you've had really great success and not used tubs, let us know. Let us know what worked for you because
Hey,
I
you
like
can do
hearing
it.
different. Yeah,
It can be done. You don't have to use the tubs. The difference is the tubs are because it's a circular flow, they are partially self-cleaning. So uneaten food and detritus tends to get flushed out. And because they're circular, you can move everything into one. Everything tends to congregate around the standpipe and sleeve.
hmm
So you can go in and very quickly, it doesn't take any time at all to clean it versus a square tank or rectangular tank where you're pretty much trying to clean the entire bottom.
yeah, and those corners.
They're less work, bottom line.
Yep. And if you don't know what a standpipe is, guys, because I didn't when they first told me, I admit it, watch the video that's going to be in the comments or description because she goes through that. And it's a quite a good idea. It works well. It's what all the, you know, the big time breeders and, you know, fish, not even just seahorses, the fish producers, I can't think of the word, but, you know, they use that kind of system. But yeah, I'm curious to know what works for all of you guys. But Holly, you are gonna go ahead with the tubs, huh?
Yeah, I was telling Cheryl, actually, I only have room for one. So I'm just going to have one to start. I'm not in a hurry. Nobody's having babies yet.
Right.
So
Give it time.
I found actually a local place that does koi ponds and asked them about the tubs. And she puts together orders for multiple people on those so we can get free shipping.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she's gonna do that for me, and we've been in touch and getting that together. So
I went
Awesome.
to TSC store, which I think down there is just Tractor Supply
Yep.
Company. And
yeah, I
they have muck
started
buckets.
there. I got a couple from them, but I'm not happy with them. They're deeper than what
Yep.
I'd like.
They're
You know,
deeper and they're
Like
narrower,
buckets, yeah.
so they're much
actually,
better to keep clean.
what's funny is you're hitting the nail on the head because that's what I used. I went to Tractor Supply. I got my two. If you when I show my setup of the tubs, they were those Tractor Supply muck buckets. I think they're like 30 gallons each, maybe a little, maybe I don't know. But anyways, and
Mine
then
was 15.
oh, mine was more than that. I mean, it might have been 20, but it was more than 15. Anyways, the
Mine's
two 18, maybe that's it. But anyways, I had two of them, and they went into a huge sump, so I had all the filtration. But what Cheryl's saying is absolutely correct. It was harder to clean. The standpipe was taller, so like I just feel like maybe the flow wasn't as good as it would be in a wider, shorter tub. So yeah, interesting.
Well, anybody wants some muck buckets? I still have some here. I quit using those quite some time ago
Yeah.
because I found if you have a large number of fry and they're all over the tank and they're so narrow, all I was doing was sucking the fry into the bucket when I was trying to clean the tank,
Mm-hmm.
which means then I'd have to catch all the fry and move them back.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't happy with them.
No, that makes sense. Makes sense. I actually agree. It did work for me while I was doing it. Like I said, I had great success. But yeah, and then frankly, in my case, I apparently just have this love-hate relationship with bacteria and probiotics because that was one of the things that happened to me that kind of made me take a step back is I just like I overused bacteria in my 40, I overused probiotics in the fry tubs and had the white, stringy, yucky, spider web looking stuff all over. And that was just such a pain to get rid of.
You
Didn't
had
help me
you
and I did, but
you had a Halloween tank.
I did. And the fry were okay. It wasn't like they were getting stuck in it or anything like that. It was just, oh, it was such a pain. It was like so much extra work. But so I agree. The
You,
muck buckets, but they'll work in a pinch.
yeah. You should have seen the one tank that I decided to overdose on vodka when I was experimenting with vodka dosing,
Oh,
and it literally looked like something that you would walk into at a Halloween party.
oh.
There was white strings everywhere.
Yep, the big moral of any of these stories, guys, is anything you decide to try, go slow. Get a little bit at a time. Whew, yeah. I mean, like Aquachar saved the day in my 40, but even that, go slow. And don't forget, I just want to shout out again. Don't forget with Aquachar, if you go to order, use Seahorse Whisperer code for 15% off. All right, totally off topic, but I have to say it whenever I can. Anyways, oh, yeah, and one more off the topic before I jump to Dylan, who's waited patiently, is that the Women in Reefing Pico tank video went out last Friday, I think, or a while ago. And another Women in Reefing featured video about a woman who's really popular on Instagram, really awesome lady who has some amazing tanks and coral is coming out this Friday. But we're still doing the Pico giveaway. So if you're somebody, this isn't to the Seahorse crowd because you couldn't really do Seahorse isn't a Pico. We're talking a 2-gallon tank. But if anybody out there is interested in a Pico, make sure you subscribe to the Women in Reefing channels and get in that giveaway because we'll be giving it
Hey,
away
it
next
it
week.
would work for cultivating amphipods.
There you go. See? Absolutely. Or macros that you are quarantining. It'd be perfect. So, hey.
Snails.
Yeah.
I found it better for cultivating amphipods in trays.
You use trays?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean
Yeah,
by trays?
Um,
they don't need a lot of
they're
water.
sterilites. They're sterilite containers, and I just fill them with the rubble. And when you want to harvest, you take some rubble out and you just sort of swish it in a container of salt water that you're going to use for harvesting, catching them in, and put the rock back in. And usually you're going to get different size ones in there. So you take a mesh net that's going to capture the ones that you want. If I wanted real small ones, then I would pour through a coarser net first to get the big ones out, and then use a finer mesh to catch the smaller ones.
Sure, but when you say trays, do you mean like they were stacked
Like,
or
you know,
just tubs?
Plastic.
they're called
Yeah.
sterilite,
Okay.
and people use them for storage and things like that. They hold, the ones I have are 15 liters. So that's
I
basically about 4 gallons.
Well, sure, and I'm definitely not suggesting that someone go out and buy a Pico tank just to do any kind of amphipods, mice, anything like that. I'm just saying for the Seahorse folks, Cheryl just made a bunch of great suggestions where if you got it for free, because it's I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be not just the Pico tank, but also the lighting and some rock or rubble for it. So yeah, it's going to be like you just plug and play and get going. So whether you're into coral or propagation or whatever, just definitely check it out and just support Women in Reefing by entering is what I'm saying. It'll be cool though. And if you watch the video, you'll see some pretty amazing vase tanks. Vicky shared her reef bowls that are packed with coral. They're so cool. And Patty shared her Pico tank. So just cool stuff. Just check it out. Support Women in Reefing was my point. And I'm wearing my
Yeah,
Seahorse shirt today again. I think I wear it like every
And
other
once
week. Oh, let me let Dan in, sorry. But I think I wear it every other week, but I'll put that link, as soon as I get resettled here. I'll put the link to get that in there too. But hey, it's Dan. And I do got to get to Dylan's questions, but I do want to ask Dan if he's just jumping in or if he had some comments about what we've been talking about. Is he there?
Here we are.
Hey, Dan.
Howdy.
What you up to?
6'1".
That's it. I'm telling you guys, even when I talk to him like just me, I say, how you doing? Still as ornery as ever. That's his answer. But anyways, were you listening and had some comments or just jumping in for fun?
I was just jumping in.
Okay.
I can't stay too long,
it's
but
Dan's fault. It's all Dan's fault. He's the one that got me started on the nursery tubs.
I heard you, Dan. You can only stay for a little bit. We're trying to limit Wine Wednesday to an hour. That'd be in 10 minutes. We might go a little over, but I'm trying to limit them. But I will discuss Dylan's questions before we go, I promise. But anyways, Dan, we were talking, and I was trying to remember, you actually did a presentation on Wine Wednesday about the fry tubs, didn't you? Showed us the equipment and stuff? I feel like you did.
yeah, somewhere back there. I don't think it was a full presentation. I think I took people a little bit of a tour through it.
Okay.
I don't remember. Maybe I did.
I'm gonna go look after this and find it because I did find the Cheryl video and linked that in the comments, and I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Try to find
Are you
too.
talking about the MBI presentation?
No, that was his actual present. That's fantastic too, and I can link that also. But no, I meant he came on one Wednesday, and I just remember him holding up the pieces when I'd say, "What's that? What's that?" But I don't. I think he's right. I think he was just walking us through it. So, and Dan, the reason we're even talking about that is Cheryl was showing Holly, and she's writing up an article about it. So that's why we were chatting about it. And
Gotcha.
Let me give you a quick screenshot, Dan, of what I'm putting together. That's what I'm doing with nursery tubs now.
Yes, pretty much very similar to how I mean, I had a different stand and whatnot, but same basic
I built
concept.
a stand myself.
Now, do you have your drain in the center or do you have it off to the side?
The drain is off to the side on the left side, but this time I went in and completely replumbed everything with PVC that I can unscrew and take out and sterilize. And then the returns are the PVC mesh going into the PVC stand, or I call them stand pipes. They're not stand pipes, the return pipes.
Yeah. I put all my standpipes in the center.
that's interesting. Is there any difference? Like, why would one be better than the other?
Well, the concept that I had is that as the water's draining, it naturally turns, and then of course with the water coming in, I just get the nice spin and everything going towards the center of the tank where the drain is.
Mm-hmm. And Cheryl, why do you?
No, I'm sorry. The actual drain is in the center of each of the tubs.
Okay.
All right. Because it looked like in that one picture there. Yeah, it looks like that one picture is off to the side.
Right. Yeah. No, the tubs are drained to the center, and I use the PVC because they're on the same sump. They're on a 29-gallon sump, and the drains then flow into one side of the sump where the skimmer is and the filter sock and all that.
In the picture, Cheryl, what was the white thing that looked like it was sticking up in the middle of the left tub? It wasn't in the middle, it was off to the side. I see why Dan thought that. Put the picture up one more time, real quick.
Underneath there's an air pump and underneath there.
No,
nope, on the tank itself. On the tank itself, there's where the airline's coming into the tank, there's some PVC right in front of the yellow chain.
That's actually an RODI. I'm filling that tank, and the white thing in there is the outer sleeve that goes over the standpipe.
Right. Well, that made me think that the standpipe wasn't in the center.
Oh no, it's sitting off to the side. It's not sitting over the standpipe. The sleeve is off.
I got you. Okay.
Gotcha.
Good,
So
good
anyways, we'll look
information though
forward
for
to,
people.
yeah, we'll look forward to Cheryl's article that's coming up, and I'll try to get those videos done, and check out the video that's linked in the description, and I'll try to find the Dan walkthrough too to link in the description. Dan, have you been up to anything new?
No, uh, same old stuff.
Well, I've been telling everybody the past few weeks, your boys, your males, literally are hunting. Like they were looking under rocks, and I'm like, what are they doing? I know we've all talked about I should get some amphipods or some mysids or whatever, and we talked about how my mysid resource had closed down. Anyways, sorry for rambling, but bottom line is they keep looking in these weird spots, and they're literally looking like they're hunting. And I figured out they're they're hunting her. They're little horny devils. They are after her. And she's gotten to where she's coming around and likes it, but yeah, they even like jump all over each other for her. It's great. I wanted to do videos, and I'm getting some major footage. So just saying, awesome. Did you train
Well,
them? Go ahead.
no, I'm glad they're working out. No, they've just been taking up space for 2 years. That's all.
No, I hear you, but as long as you didn't train them to be like man eaters, but not man eaters, women, whatever. Anyways, I love them. They're doing great, and they're beautiful, and I just love them. But it's funny too. I've got some pictures I'm gonna post showing how much bigger they are than her. So that might be why she was a little intimidated. But they've come around. They all chillax and have fun. Anyways, I'm rambling, but and
That's
go ahead.
normal. Kelly, think about yourself when you were in your teens and you saw the first guy you liked. What'd
Right.
you do? You probably ran and hid.
Probably.
I mean,
Probably.
that's
Hey,
a
hey,
girl thing.
hey, Chimp, you missed at the very beginning. I apologize for not being at RAP. I hope you had an amazing time. Tag me on any pictures. I didn't look all weekend because I was depressed because I didn't get to go. Got sick. Anyways, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in, and definitely let me know what you've been up to. And we got to get to Dylan's question real quick, guys. Sorry. And then we can talk about whatever you want before I end it, because I know Dan can't stay long, and I'm trying to limit these. But okay, Dylan said, I've been vibrance dipping my rock in order to get rid of cyano, and it seems to be working, but it'll take more than one dip. He's been so plagued with cyano, he doesn't care about brown or green, but the cyano he cannot get rid of. So he decided to try vibrance. I was worried though that anything on the rock would break down and kill my horses, so I took some rock, not all, but some, and put them into my QT tank, and I used vibrance on them and left them for 2 days. He found it's actually helping, though it seems I might need to redip the rock, and I'm not doing all the rock at once, just a little at a time, so not to shock the tank, and I put some back in. No problem so far, but it's just taking forever. So anybody have any thoughts on that?
A lot of snails will eat cyano.
Yeah, but that takes forever. I get the point that it's frustrating as heck. And my only question to you guys is, because I think he's smart so as not to shock the system. I tried Vibrance once and have no familiarity with it. Like I can't give any advice about Vibrance. But I get your point in not wanting to shock the system. But I thought Vibrance was supposed to be able to be used in the system. I thought it didn't kill anything. And my only other thought is, if you're only if you're taking some rock out and leaving the rest and putting the clean rock back in and taking more out, isn't it just being reinfected? Like I'm thinking like in terms of when you treat other things, or do you guys think that's not a big worry?
Well, with cyano, usually if you manually move it, increase your flow, it should normally slowly disappear.
Right. Well, Dylan's has come in for weeks and had this trouble. And I'll look to see if there's any posts, Dylan's. I've been, like I said, I was hiding out after I didn't get to wrap. I was upset. But
the other thing the reefers tell you to do is back off on your lighting because it does require some light.
Right. Well, I just know that for me, once something like that happens, it's so much easier to prevent, like what the things that we're talking about versus treat, because it is a pain in the butt. And yeah, I don't have much to add to what you've said, Dylan. Just keep us updated on how it works out, because I just don't know much about vibrance. But I do think that it was supposed to be able to be used in the tank. Hey, Chimp, do you know anything about vibrance, and what do you think about what he's saying? And yes, I did. I'm depressed I didn't get to go to RAP, but I'm trying to plan Aquashella and of course Macna in September. So I promise we'll see each other. Anyway, sorry I'm jumping around, but yeah, Dan, you don't have any
I've
thoughts about any
heard
of that,
from some
right?
of my reefer friends.
No,
I-
I'm
I've
not a big
heard
help
some.
there.
Yeah.
I've heard some horrible results using Vibrant to rid a tank of cyano. And some people swear by it. Other people have ended up with a disaster. Bottom line.
Well, he says it's been working. He's just doing it slowly is the only thing, which probably is very smart. What was the big complaint, Cheryl? Do you remember?
The biggest problem that they had is, and again, I think people that were doing this were just trying to clear it up like yesterday,
Mm.
and they put in too much. And the next thing they know, basically they created a dead zone in their tank,
Uh,
and they lost a lot.
well, maybe that means he's really, really smart to be doing it the way he's doing it.
Yes.
So I'm sorry I don't have much to add to it, Dylan, but please keep us updated. And yeah, I wish you all the luck because I do understand, man. When I dealt with dinos, oh, it was awful. It just once it starts, oh, it's heck. Ray, have you ever dealt with
Well, manual
cyano or anything?
removal.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Uh, maybe decades ago.
Yeah. Okay, I won't bug you about what happened then. Hey, thank you to ever just
I've
either.
never ever used,
Go ahead.
I've never ever used treatments for anything in my tanks other than meds for hospital tanks.
I never
Right.
treated for algae either. I just waited it out because I remember when I started my tank years ago, I went through different phases of algae. And right now, most of it's coralline algae. I get some of the green hair, but not all over the tank like I used to, just here and there in spots like under right where it's right under the bright light, that kind of thing. But I just pull that out by hand.
Right. And I hear you, and that is and I want to talk about what Dan's showing, but I hear you, and that is the comment that we try to really get across is if you're in a new tank, wait it out. If it's not terrible, wait it out. But I've been in the situation where it's literally covering everything. Like you've got gorgonians or coral, and it's covering them. They're not getting light anymore because whatever the algae is or cyano or whatever is literally growing over it. That's you can't let that happen. And while Cheryl's comment about adding more flow is great, and I agree with, you know, sometimes, and when you add more flow, you got to make sure you've got a really great skimmer or you're doing enough maintenance to get it out. Like just blowing it around isn't going to work. You got to have something removing it. But I am rambling, I know, but I'm just trying to say I understand his predicament because I've been in the place where everybody's like, wait it out, and that is true in a new tank or maybe even in an old tank. But when it's covering everything and you literally can't let it continue because it just keeps getting worse, man, I've been there. So
Well, I had one tank that started developing some cyano, and I basically backed off. I don't run much lighting anyway. I backed
right,
off on lighting, dropped a power head in there, manually took out rock or two every few days, scrubbed it off in salt water so as not to kill everything, put them back in, and the whole problem is it's disappearing. Last time I saw green hair was at least 5 years ago,
wow. Well, that's
and
it. That's
again,
go ahead.
I just manually removed it all that I could, kept the lighting down, and did my water changes, and it disappeared.
Right. Well, Dylan's, but the one other thing I was going to say is that's a really just another thought because I know what Salty Reef would say if he was here. He would say, get new rock, or if you have other rock, cure it, and then just replace the rock in the tank. Obviously, that's not uh, an option for just anybody. But if you had other rock, maybe try that, because usually it's the problem is coming from the rock. And the other thing I was going to say is with hair algae and dinos and all those other awful things I've dealt with, I always use peroxide. And Dan, I definitely want to know what we're looking at behind you. But before that, would peroxide work on cyano, or does it not work the same because cyano is a bacteria?
It won't work the same.
Damn it.
It might help cut back some stuff, but I think you're fighting a losing battle using it to fight cyno.
So it only works on nuisance algae. Got it. Gotcha. So what? I'm just curious. What would you do if your tank got covered in cyano? Just what Cheryl's saying?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I would increase the flow. I'd scrub the crap out of it and increase my filtration and do some very large water changes.
Yeah. I think that's about all you can do. Which I know that sounds like a pain, but I've been there before too, Dylan, where I've had to do like back to back water changes, and it's like, what's the point? This is never ending, but it does eventually end. Okay, Dan, tell us what we're looking at in your background.
I just switched pictures. That's just one of my round tanks that I had with seahorses in it. Those guys, that's a 90-gallon tub instead of the small tub. So those guys are about 3 to 4 inches in size. Where the heck is my thing? There it is. So I just was flipping around looking through my pictures and decided to replace the background with something different.
Those are
Sure.
erectus.
No, actually, those I believe are CUDA.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Caenorhopterus variety, if you will.
I could use some CUDA.
Well, I had 1,400 of them at one time.
Sheesh.
Whoa.
And Dan, I'm curious. One thing we were kind of talking about earlier, but it makes a difference how big the tub is. Like one of my biggest problems was when I finally had success, thanks to what you taught me and Cheryl taught me. All of a sudden, I had all these guys, succeed. But when they get that big and you've only got two 20-gallon tubs, it's a different story. How long could you keep them in the 90s? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it varies based upon multiple factors, including how good you are at what you do. Um, when we had those guys, we started off with two 90-gallon tubs. We had two CUDA that delivered the same day,
Oh.
and we put them in two 90-gallon tubs, and we ended up, as they got bigger, we had to split because the market wasn't prepared for them. We didn't move them very quickly once we were ready to sell them.
Mm.
The Vietnamese were dumping them on the market at the same time.
Ooh.
So I ended up, almost every tank I had ended up having stuff in them, but I would keep about somewhere close to 400 in a 90-gallon tub with no problem. Um,
Like all the way to adult, you could?
well, up to about 4 inches.
Okay.
At 4 inches, I could keep roughly 400 in a 90-gallon tub without issue if I stayed on top of what I was supposed to be doing, as far as keeping the tank clean, changing the skimmer. The little skimmer I would have to change it every day, and the skimmer that Cheryl, the one that we all use, oh, I can't think of the name of it at the
I
moment,
can't
but
either.
SCA.
yes, the SCA skimmer, it would actually fill up. Sometimes we would change it twice a day. We'd have to change the filter sock every single day, sometimes twice a day. And then I was using a 5-micron cartridge filter that was getting changed twice a day, just trying to keep up with the water. At that point, you're putting almost a quarter of a pound of food in the tank a day.
Right.
So
And
there's a lot of crap going in there, and a lot of crap that's being expelled, and it's work to keep up with it. If you don't keep up with it, then when you've got a density like that, if it starts to crash, it crashes in a hurry,
Yes.
and you can end up with tail rot or anything like that if you don't stay on top of it.
And when you say keeping the tank clean, were you just wiping down the sides and then changing the skimmer, changing the sock, changing the filter, or did you do actual water changes?
No, the water changes were limited to how much I was siphoning out, and I would siphon roughly somewhere between 7 to 10 gallons a day out of the tank, because we would have to do it a minimum of twice a day, and we'd siphon into a 5-gallon bucket. And when you've got that many seahorses, you're doing a lot of siphoning, and would usually fill up the 5-gallon bucket. and sometimes we would do a third siphoning on the day. So,
Wow.
it was getting, somewhere between 7 to 10 gallons a day on average of a water change. And, between the tank and the sump, there was probably a total of 100 gallons.
Geez. And so, and the whole idea of the round tub is that the waste and the excess food, whether it be frozen or live, ends up swirling down the middle.
Well,
But go ahead.
that's part of it. That's only part of it, though.
Okay.
Part of it is that, yes, it's a little bit easier to clean. You have a better removal of waste, if you will, going into the filter sock. But the because it's round and because of the way that the water flows coming in and creating that circular motion, there's no dead spots. So you have the constant tank evenly being circulated. And of course, in the evenings, we would turn the flow up, but we had to be careful. And in fact, you don't see it on this one, but I had to fix some of my standpipes where if you look at the bottom, there's screening at the bottom of that pipe in the middle or to the slightly to the my right.
Yeah,
Um,
your
but we had to
standpipe.
put a screen up higher up because it would get clogged and the tank would overflow.
Oh, right. I see. I get it. I get why the screen had to be up. So, but, and the reason I was asking that too is because you're talking about siphoning. Would you type, siphon so are you like scrubbing down the tub and then siphoning whatever's sitting there? Or are you siphoning from the sump? What are you siphoning?
When I have that many in a tank and that much organics in the tank, if you don't scrub that tank every day, you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah,
So we would take a blue scrub pad, the non, scratch type, and we would scrub the bottom and the sides every day.
Hey,
right.
Dan, I want to show you something real quick.
Okay. Uh,
Uh,
While she's getting it up, I just wanted to say that's the point I was hoping you
Dan,
would make
yeah.
because most people think once you set up all that filtration, the sock, the skimmer, the round tub, then you're good. But no, you literally have to scrub it every day. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah, can you see the outer sleeve?
Yep.
Okay, the one on the right was actually one I built because I had at one point over 30, at least 3 inch long erectus in one of the 20-gallon tubs. And I actually used that and of course was able to increase the flow. And I didn't lose any. I
Well,
guess
I agree with what you did there, except I think you would get better flow rate by using window screen instead of the needlepoint stuff.
okay, because the other one in the middle it actually has window screen. That was
Right, but
another experiment I did.
right, but see, if you look at the one with the needlepoint stuff, your thickness of the strands are so wide
Sloppy.
that it you don't get as much flow as you do with the window screen.
I'm glad I asked.
Wait a minute, the thickness of what?
Okay, when you look at the squares on the needlepoint, the one to the right,
Yes.
you've got the holes, but if you'll notice, the width of the strands is pretty wide.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they take up a lot of space. The amount of water that will move through a given area will be higher with the window screen because it's skinnier strands and there's
Oh,
more surface area for water to pass.
Plus it's
gotcha.
flexible.
But all in all, would you then recommend putting, because when I set up my tubs, I just had the holes around the bottom, because that's how you and Colby had done it. But is that, if she used window screen instead of the needlepoint, would that be a good idea to put holes further up?
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about it clogging, absolutely.
I like it.
In my case, and I wasn't at this point with this tank. We were keeping up with it. Wasn't a problem because I hadn't swapped out the standpipe. But several of the tanks, I ended up. I'll see if I can find a picture. But I had to put in different stand. I had to change the standpipe design slightly so that it wouldn't. The tank couldn't overflow because I had a couple of them where they actually started overflowing onto the floor
Mm,
and the sump started running dry.
gotcha.
And that was just because of all the poop and stuff that they were just,
Yeah.
you know, it was
And
literally
those
clogging up the screen.
yeah.
Hey,
Those
I
bat
just wanted to say
sleeves
hello,
really
hello, Harkins Aquatics. If you want to jump in for any reason, feel free. And all your suggestions have been very helpful on the tank, but I'll talk about that later because we're deep in the fry tubs right now. Anyways, Dan, are you showing a picture or Cheryl, what were you going to say?
Oh,
I'm
I was
trying to
just
find a picture.
Okay.
so basically the flexible window screen, although the holes are slightly smaller, is a better option than using the plastic needlepoint.
Yeah, I like it better because I use the fiberglass window screen. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, let's see, this picture will work for what I want to do, but it's not exactly what I did with those guys. Let me copy this picture and go up here and drop it in. There we go. So go to green screen, browse.
Hey,
We
Chris
got
Carey.
dead airspace.
I know, sorry. I'll start rambling again. Hey, Chris Carey. How you doing? We got to get you back in here when you have time. Need to know what's going on up in Australia. But, and as we're waiting, oh, there we go.
Okay, I see what you did, Dan.
Yeah. So what happens is that as the water level rises, I have the screening up there for it to overflow into if it should get clogged up at the bottom. And then
Hmm.
um, basically most of the time it doesn't even start flowing into there, but if it starts going up, then it just acts as a protective measure so I don't overflow the tank.
And see, I did the same thing with one of my tanks, a 58 gallon, and actually drilled holes and added to the outer sleeve just for that reason.
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. I was trying to make the box bigger so you could see more clearly what he's talking about, and I have moved the wrong thing. So, anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
So that was another tank of Cuda.
Jeez, it's beautiful. And I'm curious, did so at nighttime when you raise the flow, and you have all of your hitching options are literally on the sides, would
Yes.
they all just be against the sides? And what's the thought process in that?
Yes. Well, if you'll notice, there's nothing. Well, the object was nothing. Come on, Mr. Tongue and Mr. Lip. The object was to keep them off the bottom.
Okay.
So they would hitch mostly to the sides. Um, I did have something on the far right you can see that was on the bottom for a little bit of overflow, but they would be primarily hitched to the sides off the bottom, and that would enable us to siphon easily and scrub easily. And when we turned up the flow, those chains that are hanging would be at a 45-degree angle because of the flow rate.
Oh, wow, cool. I get it. And that's
They would
really smart.
Yeah, they would be that tank would be spinning at a pretty good clip, and those all of those chains would be literally at a 45-degree angle, because of the flow pushing them.
That is, man, I wish I could see that right now. That's really, that
I
makes
don't know if I
sense.
have any pictures of that. I'll look, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would crank up the flow. The first time, it's funny because what happened was, you remember in the old days, it was low flow with seahorses, and we had a batch of fry, and it was in a 15-gallon tank, a 15 tall, and they were crashing. And we had done this, we had done that, and nothing was working. So I turned up the flow, and Abby almost had a heart attack. She goes, "You're going to kill them with that much flow." And I said, "We have
No.
nothing to lose. We're losing them anyway." I said, "Let's crank the flow up." The next
Hmm.
morning, they had rebounded. And
Hmm.
so after that, we started getting in the habit of experimenting with higher flows at nighttime, so that at nighttime we would just crank the flow as much as we could tolerate without, blowing them up against something. But we would really crank up the flow quite a bit.
I love that. And you missed last week. They were helping me figure out flow in my tank, and we actually figured out there wasn't enough. So I'm go flow. I'm team flow. But that's really smart. And I can't get over the side thing at 45-degree angles. That sounds so perfect. It just sounds like perfect. And Chris said, that fiberglass window screen is good stuff. I use it as a pre-filter on drains and overflows on heaps of our systems. Absolutely. And It's cold and wet down in Tasmania, if anybody cares. And Chris, yep. But we want to know how it's going on that exhibit you're working on too. And yeah, I keep asking anybody who jumps in about cyano because that was the topic that Dylan's still dealing with. Sorry to go off track. Um, and you said, what is it, the piece at the top called, Dan? The piece at the top of the standpipe.
Okay, so
Let overflow.
it's really all it is a straight pipe connector that I cut squares out with a Dremel tool and then wrapped it with window screening and put it over the pipe.
And so in this tub, it's at the top and not at the bottom, or is it both?
It's both. There's one
Okay.
at the bottom, but I put the one at the top in case the one at the bottom gets clogged up,
Makes sense.
so it doesn't overflow.
And what are the two white, it looks like PVC or something going towards the middle?
Okay, there's a reflection of a light underneath
Oh.
the PVC,
Okay.
and the PVC, there's two returns coming into the tank. One has an elbow, one's going straight into the tank.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
I'm gonna
I
do
did
a quick
I did the
screen
elbow
share.
because when I turn up the flow, the problem is that if they're both going straight in the tank, it would spin too hard. So I would slow down the speed of the spin by putting an elbow on there.
See, all these little tricks that he's learned over the years are so helpful to people trying to set up for this. But what'd you say,
And
Cheryl?
I'm going to send you a screen share. If I can find, where did it go? Darn it.
Are you trying to show something you said?
I'm trying to show, okay. Can you see that?
No.
Not yet. We see you.
Oh, good. Great. Let me try this again. Basically, I did with the needle point, but I'm thinking of changing it to, come on.
Down at the bottom, share screen? Is that what you're?
There it is. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. That was my first build on the garage tank that I ripped apart. Since that time, I've also added holes and basically drilled the top as well. So I have what I call a safety valve on that. Would you recommend then going with window screen? I can easily remove the plastic.
Well, that doesn't look. You've got enough holes there that it's probably not going to be a problem. But if I was to build a new one that way, I would use window screen. And the other thing that I'm in a habit of doing is cutting squares instead of round holes because I can get more surface area for water to exit.
Okay.
That's
now, of course, I'm using a Dremel tool to do that, but
right.
What do you use, Cheryl, to drill?
I use drill bits, and basically I have round PVC drills that produce holes, and then I use a jigsaw and cut them out larger.
Well, you guys are all better than me using a knife and just twisting it. I'm kidding. But no, I love the idea of the squares. I mean, the circles work though, right? I mean,
they work. I mean, the idea that I was trying to do is to get the maximum amount of space, if you will, for water to flow through, and that's why I did the squares. In fact, let's see.
oh, I see your 45-degree angle. I love it.
Well, those are smaller fry there, okay?
Yeah.
But you can tell I've got the flow turned up quite a bit, even though they're smaller fry. And you can see that those things are swinging. They're not as hard as they do sometimes, but you can see that as the flow goes up, they start, swinging.
Yeah, and the Seahorse's hitch. It makes sense.
So this is, I don't know if I can take this off. Nope. But this is a 2-inch pipe that I use that goes over the drain pipe. And the bottom, I just cut squares like that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then that gives me a lot of surface area, and of course, it sits in the tank like
Mhm.
in that fashion.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so does it matter the size too? Because I noticed on Cheryl's they were different sizes of
Yes, if
holes. Okay.
when I put newborn fry in a tank, I put in 706 seven 670 micron screen
Oh.
so
I
that the
said
fry can't go through it.
630 for
Huh?
the little guys.
What, Cheryl?
630 with the little guys,
I
like
was
3 to,
using 670, and
okay, 670,
and
yeah.
I would do that for the first week or two, and then I would switch to window screen with Erectus. Um, Erectus, brand new Erectus fry can get through window screen, so the 670 is window screen is typically 1,000 by 1,200 microns, and 670 is almost half that size.
And when you say you'd switch, did you remove it from the same piece or did you have a backup piece?
No, I don't have a backup piece. I have
Okay.
multiples of those that when we're cleaning a tank, we'll pull a standpipe and stick another one in there. And what'll happen is that over a period of a few days, that screen will get real nasty from all the garbage.
Yep.
So instead of trying to clean it in the tank, we'll yank it out, stick another one on, and throw it in a bleach bucket.
That's
Yeah.
so smart because when I would try to clean it in the tank, it was a disaster. That's so smart. I love it.
Well,
Well,
for a day or two, you can take the brush and siphon off the stuff on the outside, but
yeah.
very quickly, the organics will build up and it'll clog quicker and quicker and quicker. So um, the other thing in that tank is if you look in the back left, there's a piece of PVC. If you can see my little mouse moving around here, um, one of my airflow jobbies for circulation.
Yes.
Love
Um,
those.
So that's nothing more than a sweep with an airline at the bottom. So it's pulling water out of the bottom and then pushing it along. So when I have the flow turned down during feeding, like with these guys, they would have been feeding on Artemia. In fact, you can see some of the Artemia on the
Mhm.
bottom right hand side where the light is.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
You can see a whole bunch of Artemia right there. And so we would turn the flow way down so we wouldn't flush the Artemia out, but we would turn the airflow up on the sweep so that we would still have circulation. And in fact, in this tank, the flow is actually not flowing very hard. If you look at the flow coming out of the pipe in the back,
Hmm.
the circulation is
Yeah.
because of the sweep.
Oh, that makes sense too. See all these
And
little
see, I
tricks.
built those two. I built those two, Dan, after I saw you put those together. And they really do a nice job.
Yep, it's a very cheap way of doing flow.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, it keeps them moving even when even if you cut the flow, you still have flow, basically.
You still have water movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, listen. I already lied. It's almost 9:30, so I'm giving the 5-minute warning. So if you have any questions in the comments, shoot them now, and we can always talk about this again next week. Holly, Ray, if you had anything you wanted to discuss, or anybody, please pipe up because 5-minute warning.
No
uh,
discussion, just a comment. I had mentioned before I was gonna switch the abdominalis into the 55-gallon tank out of the 90.
oh yeah.
But I cheated this morning. I put them into a 40-gallon tall with a 20-gallon sump.
Oh yeah.
But the
Why'd you?
male doesn't like it. He's had 3 feedings now, counting the one I did while this was on, and he won't eat.
Oh no
Female's
kidding.
doing fine, but the male, he didn't like it. And all I did, set up the tank and I pumped the water out of the 90 into the 40. I took the hitching out of and the power heads and stuff out of the 90, put them in the 40. So everything's exactly the same as far as physical pieces. But I just lifted him out of the tank with my hands and set him down in the water so he wasn't out more than 2-3 seconds. And yet, for some reason, it's stressed him enough so he hasn't eaten.
Oh no. Well, and if you're using the exact same equipment from the 90 to the 40, I know we talked last week about my tank and how they like more flow. But could it possibly be, did you turn the flow down?
Yeah, I
'Cause-
didn't put all the power heads in. I put,
Okay,
I'm using 4 of them, so that's 1,600 gallons per hour in a 40-gallon tank with a 20-gallon sump. But there's 2 of the power heads have quick filters on them, so it won't be, I won't be getting any 400 gallons out of those.
right. Any thoughts from Dan or Cheryl about
I think it's
why,
just,
or?
I think he'll be okay. I think it's just, he
Yeah,
didn't take to it the way the
Yeah.
female did, then he'll straighten around tomorrow, I'm guessing.
He's probably stubborn like you, Ray.
it sounds like they're stressed from the move,
Mhm.
and they should bounce back really quickly. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, she's okay. Like at the 1:30 feeding this afternoon, she ate. She ate at the 5:15, and she ate here just a few minutes after 9 when I went down. Did it. So there hasn't been a problem with her, but just with him, and that's unusual in that when food comes, he's usually the fastest one to get to it.
have you
And
got any access to live food just in case?
Pardon me?
Do you have any access to live food?
No, I wiped it out over a month ago, and I never bothered starting it up again.
well, I'm guessing it was just today, right? This morning that you.
Yep, just this morning. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's going to be okay by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I've got fingers crossed, and I will remember to ask you next week for an update. And yeah, let us know if anything does occur. But I'm guessing you're right. He's probably just stubborn like you, and tomorrow he'll come around, and
He
it'll
just
be
doesn't
okay.
like the lack of room.
Yep, and it makes me, and it's a smart move. And I just want to say, for the record, it makes me so sad when like you and Dan, and I'm glad Cheryl's still pumping out the babes, and baby Seahorse is not the babies, but anyways,
No, no way.
I'm glad she's still gung ho. But I totally understand why people have to move on after they've spent so many years, breeding and dealing with seahorses. But I just want to say thank you so much to you guys that still come and share and help us, people who don't know what the heck we're doing, because all of your experiences really matter and help, new people be able to do things properly and better. So it makes it's a sad to see people not doing it anymore, but really, really thankful that you guys come and share, and help the newer folks.
I wish I was still healthy enough.
Right.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's one of those things. I don't know everything, and I like having the opportunity to bounce ideas or crazy idea things off of others,
Hmm.
and I learn from it. I modify what I'm doing. I
Yep.
experiment because if we don't experiment, we'll never move forward in this hobby.
Absolutely. I mean, last week, Miss Seahorse Whisperer was literally asking you what I should do with the flow. So there you go. And Cheryl's showing us tonight how she's modified her standpipe covers, whatever they're called. And yeah, don't forget that the videos will be in the comment section. But yeah, I'm just saying I love Wine Wednesday too. Sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but I always end up being glad I did, because I love hearing from all of you. And don't forget, you don't have to be a pro. If you want to come in and show your tank, or ask a question, or share something that's cool that's working for you, you just gotta message me or Dan on the side, or any of us really, and we'll get you in here to share and show like I did last week.
Yeah.
So we
It's,
love
I mean,
seeing you guys every week.
just because you haven't been doing this for 15 plus years or whatever, doesn't mean you don't have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Because maybe you found something that works really well that nobody else has thought of.
Yep, Susan, Hill, I can't think of her name. Anyways, a lot of people have shared cool little tips and tricks with me that have helped over the years. But we really appreciate the experts jumping in here, you guys, Dan, Ray, Cheryl. But Holly, you've taught me things too. Shoot, I mean, it's just nice to share. So I'm just saying thank you everybody for coming every week. I really appreciate all of you. And Holly, did you have anything else? Because I'm 2 minutes
No,
over my
the
deadline.
seahorses are all doing well. Nothing's changed. They're all doing fine. So
And I'll ask you about the site, your actual business once we get off. But okay, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody coming every week. If you have any questions afterwards, there's always the comment section or Seahorse Sources group where we all are. And appreciate you. Thank you, all of the experts, for coming. And everybody say bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night,
Night, everybody. Cheers.
and good day to Chris anyway. It's not nighttime for him.
Right. And we want you to come in here, Chris. All right. Cheers.